Is the Trinity biblical? Surely a teaching as widespread and popular as the Trinity must be scriptural, isn't it? Yet time and time again, it has proved to researchers that it is not found in the scripture. This is a man who started the Reformation. He himself admitted that the name Trinity is nowhere in scripture. The question that is cardinal and critical is to answer is it God a Trinity? If God is a Trinity, how can we prove that yes, indeed, he is a Trinity? When we look at various scholars who have dealt with this and many students, we realize that they all teach that there is nothing in scripture that teaches that. We see then that the doctrine of the Trinity isn't found formalized in scripture, and it was formalized after the Bible was completed and the apostles were no longer alive and they were dead and in their graves. Why can't theologians explain this doctrine? By no means are theologians' explanation of the Trinity doctrine clear. Religious writer A.W. Tozer, in his book The Knowledge of the Holy, states that the Trinity is an incomprehensible mystery, and that attempts to understand it must remain forever futile. He admits that churches, without pretending to understand, have nevertheless continued to teach this doctrine. So the question is, why would you believe it? It's nowhere in your book, unless you have to believe some doctrines that are not found in your book. Now, Cyril Richardson, professor of church history at New York Union Theological Seminary, though a dedicated Trinitarian himself, said this in his doctrine of the Trinity. My conclusion about the doctrine of the Trinity is that it is an artificial construct. It produces confusion rather than clarification. And while the problems with which it deals are real ones, the solutions it offers are not illuminating. It has posed for many Christians dark and mysterious statements which are ultimately meaningless because it does not sufficiently discriminate in its use of terms. Now, surprising admission that the Trinity isn't in the Bible. Now, those admissions from a number of reputable sources and authors who, while themselves affirming the Trinity, acknowledge that the word Trinity and the doctrine is not found in the Bible. Let's look at a number of proofs and texts. The New International Standard Bible Encyclopedia acknowledges that Trinity is a 2nd century term found nowhere in the Bible, and the scriptures present no finished Trinitarian statement. 1988, volume 4, Trinity, page 914. It further states that, listen to this one, church fathers crystallized the doctrine in succeeding centuries long after the apostles had passed from the scene. Number 2, Harper Collins' Encyclopedia of Catholicism states, today, however, scholars generally agree that there is no doctrine of the Trinity as such in either the Old Testament or New Testament. It would go far beyond the intention and thought forms of the Old Testament to suppose that a late 4th century Christian doctrine can be found there. Likewise, the New Testament does not contain an explicit doctrine of the Trinity. Richard McBride, General Editor, 1995, God. The New Encyclopedia Britannica, in its article on the Trinity, explains neither the word Trinity nor the explicit doctrine appears in the New Testament. So, the New International Dictionary of New Testament Theology points out that primitive Christianity did not have an explicit doctrine of the Trinity such as was subsequently elaborated in the creeds of the early church. Historian and scientific fiction writer H.G. Wells also corroborates the same thing. Martin Luther King, whom we stated initially, the German priest who initiated the Reformation, Protestant Reformation considered, it is indeed true that the name Trinity is nowhere to be found in the Holy Scriptures, but has been conceived and invented by men. The Oxford Companion Dictionary to the Bible states the same thing. Professor Charles Ryrie, in his respected work, Basic Theology, also states the same thing. Millard Erickson, research professor of theology at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary, writes that the Trinity is not clearly or explicitly taught anywhere in Scripture, yet it is widely regarded as a central doctrine indispensable to the Christian faith. So this is quite interesting. Professor Erickson later points out it is claimed that the doctrine of the Trinity is a very important, crucial, and even basic doctrine. If that is indeed the case, should it not be somewhere more clearly, directly, and explicitly stated in the Bible? So why do you believe in the doctrine that is not taught? However, I want to say that the background for how the Trinity was introduced is quite interesting. And also that the Trinitarian doctrine comes from elsewhere, where we will show and where we will prove as Committee Hebrew Ethics. Thank you.